The economy under the Trump administration was doing well prior to the pandemic, continuing a trend which began during the Obama administration. However, there have been periods when it was much stronger one. During his first 3 years in office, President Trump oversaw an annual average growth of 2.5%. The last 3 years of the Obama administration saw a similar level of growth, 2.3%. When people refer to President Obama's tax cuts, they generally refer to the $858 billion tax cut deal signed in 2010. It extended the Bush tax cuts through 2012 and unemployment benefits through 2011. It cut payroll taxes by 2 percentage points, adding $112 billion to workers' spendable income. It extended a college tuition tax credit. It also included $58 billion in industry-specific tax cuts. Obama also signed legislation cutting taxes in 2009 and 2013. In 2009, $288 billion were cut as part of the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act. In 2013, Obama approved the permanent extension of the Bush tax cuts for those below a certain income level as part of the fiscal cliff package. When Obama came to office in January 2009, the U.S. economy was in a deep recession, with falling real GDP, high unemployment and rising levels of government borrowing. As president, Obama oversaw a moderate fiscal expansion which helped to promote economic recovery and falling unemployment. During the Reagan administration, President Reagan implemented a program for economic recovery that focused on 4 areas: a reduction in the federal tax rate, a substantial reduction in the growth of federal expenditures, relief from federal regulatory burdens, and a monetary policy for the Federal Reserve System that complemented the previous 3 policies. His economic agenda, known as Reaganomics, was characterized by tax cuts, deficit spending, and lower inflation. Over the 8 years of the Reagan administration, 20 million new jobs were created, inflation dropped from 13.5% in 1980 to 4.1% by 1988, unemployment fell from 7.6% to 5.5%, net worth of families earning between $20,000 and $50,000 annually grew by 27%, and real gross national product rose 26%. During the Carter administration, President Carter had to fight the stagflation that had occurred under the Nixon administration. He created jobs and fought stagflation. At his request, Congress passed an Economic Stimulus Appropriations Act to create jobs and help the economy. The Carter administration also sought to make government more efficient and productive and less burdensome by continuing the task of reforming the regulatory system begun during the Nixon administration. During the George H.W. Bush administration, President Bush provided leadership in addressing the economic challenges of his time and laid the foundation for prosperity over the 2 decades following his administration. He initiated the North American Free Trade Agreement negotiations, which made North America the most competitive trading bloc in the world and contributed significantly to U.S. prosperity. He also oversaw a Brady Bond program restructuring developing countries' debt, which enabled more than 2 decades of high growth and rising living standards for hundreds of millions of people in Southeast Asia, Latin America, and Africa. During the Bill Clinton administration, referred to by some as Clintonomics, President Clinton oversaw a healthy economy. The U.S. had strong economic growth, around 4% annually, and record job creation, 22.7 million. He raised taxes on higher income taxpayers early in his first term and cut defense spending and welfare, which contributed to a rise in revenue and decline in spending relative to the size of the economy. These factors helped bring the United States federal budget into surplus from fiscal years 1998 to 2001, the only surplus years since 1969. During the George W. Bush administration, the economy was characterized by significant income tax cuts in 2001 and 2003, the implementation of Medicare Part D in 2003, increased military spending for 2 wars, a housing bubble that contributed to the subprime mortgage crisis of 2007 to 2008, and the Great Recession that followed. Economic performance during the period was adversely affected by two recessions, in 2001 and 2007 to 2009.